Welcome to part 2 of this crochet dragon tutorial. If you haven't already watched part 1, then make sure to go do that, but otherwise let's get straight into it. So now we're going to be doing the head. So we're going to start off by doing 6 single crochets into the magic ring. Then for round 2, we're going to do 6 increases, and this will take us up to 12 stitches. So now for the next round, I'm going to work around with you. So we're going to start off by doing 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2, and then an increase into the next stitch. And now into the following stitch, we're going to be doing a bobble stitch. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to show you how to do the bobble stitch. So we're going to start off by yarning over, then putting our hook into the next stitch. We're going to pull through so that we have 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over and pull through 2 of those loops so that we have 2 loops on our hook. Now once again, we're going to yarn over, then go back into that same stitch, pull through, then yarn over so that we have 3 loops on our hook. Now we will yarn over again, go back into that same stitch, pull through, and yarn over so that we have 4 loops on our hook. And now we will yarn over, go back into that same stitch, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through so that we have 5 loops on our hook. Now we are going to yarn over and pull through all 5 of those loops, and then immediately we will single crochet into the next stitch. Now you can press out the bobble stitch from the inside, so you can see this is our first bobble stitch there. And now we are going to do an increase into the next stitch. So an increase here. And now we're going to do another bobble stitch just like we did that one. So yarn over, go into the stitch, pull through, yarn over, then pull through 2 loops, yarn over, back into the stitch, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, go back into the stitch, pull through, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over, go back into the same stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops on your hook, and then finally finish off by pulling through all 5 loops. Then we will immediately single crochet into the next stitch, and then pop out the bobble stitch by pressing it out from the inside. Now we will do an increase, then 2 single crochets, and then an increase to finish off. So we can see that these bobble stitches are basically the nostrils for the nose. And now for the following round, we are going to just single crochet all the way around. So now for the following round, we are going to do 5 single crochets, then 4 increases, and then 7 single crochets. And this will take us up to 20 stitches. Now for round 6, we're going to do 6 single crochets and then single crochet increase times by 4 and then 6 single crochets. And this will take us up to 24 stitches. For round 7, we are going to do 3 single crochets and an increase times by 6, and this will take us up to 30 stitches. For the following round, we are just going to single crochet all the way round. So for the next round, you're going to want to get your white yarn ready, as we're going to have 2 stitches that will be in white. So we're going to be doing 12 single crochets in purple, and then a bobble stitch in white, then 5 single crochets in purple, another bobble stitch in white, and then 11 single crochets in purple to finish off. So basically, the aim of the bobble stitches is to replicate the horns of a dragon. And you'll want your bubble stitches to basically be at around the same point as the nostrils, so approximately here on the next round. So if you have to adjust by a few stitches, for example, to do 13 single crochets at the start in purple instead of 12, to make sure that your bubble stitches are lined up equally with the nostrils, on just outside of the nostrils, then you can, that's totally fine. Feel free to make adjustments. So I'm just onto the 5 loops part of the bobble stitch. I'm just going to complete the bobble stitch with my purple yarn to change back to purple. So you can see that my horns are lined up sort of with the nostrils and that they're pretty even on either side. So I'm just going to cut off my white yarn. And then I'll continue round. So this is what it looks like with that round completed. And now for the next round, we are just going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease times by 6. And this will take us down to 24 stitches. Now for the following round, we are going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease times by 6. And this will take us down to 18 stitches. Now we're going to put our safety eyes in. So the safety eyes are going to go between rounds 7 and 8. So you can see the round with the horns is here and the safety eyes are just 2 rounds in front of that. And they're going to be just outwards of the nostril and horns. So go ahead and clip those in with that positioning. And now we can continue round. So for the following round, we are going to do a single crochet and a decrease times by 6, and this will take us down to 12 stitches. So now we're going to add stuffing to the head. So once you are happy with the amount of stuffing that you have, we are going to continue on to the last round. So for the last round, we are going to do 6 decreases to finish off. So once you have completed that round, we are now going to leave a long tail for sewing the head onto the body. Then we will finish off by pulling through. And now we need to sew the back of the head shut. So once again, we are going to be sewing in and out of the front loops only. So we'll go into the first front loop, out of the second front loop, into the following front loop, and then out of the next one, and then you just pull tight. Now we are just going to bring that tail down to the bottom of the head for when we sew it on later. So once we have completed that, we can now move on to crocheting the ears. So grab your purple yarn again, and we're going to leave a bit of a tail for our slip knot or magic ring. And we're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic ring. Now for the next round, we're going to do single crochet and an increase times by 3, and this will take us up to 9 stitches. Now we are going to leave quite a bit of a tail for sewing the ear on. And we will pull through to finish off. And then we are just going to grab our tail from the magic ring, put it in the yarn needle, and we just need to bring it to the same point that the other tail is at. So I'm just going to bring it to the other side of the ear and then up the top where this second tail is here. So now both tails are coming out at the same point, and this will just make it easier when we sew them on. So now you need to go ahead and create a second ear identical to this one. So go ahead and create another ear. Once you have your 2 ears, we can now put those aside and move on to crocheting the wings. So for the wings, we are going to grab our white yarn to start off with. And we're going to begin by doing 6 single crochets into our magic ring with our white yarn. Then for round 2, we are going to do 6 increases, and this will take us up to 12 stitches. Now for round 3, we're going to do single crochet and an increase times by 6. Now for the final round, we are going to do 2 single crochets and an increase times by 6, and this will take us up to 24 stitches. So on my last increase, I'm just finishing off it with purple. And then I can just cut the white yarn off. So now we are just going to fold this in half. So we're folding it in half like it's a wing. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be single crocheting through the top, through both halves with the purple. So we're just going to go into our next stitch with the purple, and then we're going to find the stitch exactly opposite that and then go through that at the same time. So you can see we're through 2 stitches at the moment, and we'll just single crochet through those 2 stitches. Then we're going to do the same in the next 2 stitches and single crochet. And we're just going to single crochet across both of the halves to finish off. And now we need to leave a tail for sewing. And then we can finish off and pull through. Now you need to make another wing identical to this one. So go ahead and create your second wing. Once you have your 2 wings, we can put those aside, and now we are going to move on to the sewing. So we're going to begin by sewing the ears onto the head. So grab both of those. So here's the 2 ears, and we're going to be sewing them onto the head. So the ears are going to go just behind, but to the side of the horns on either side, just like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my yarn needle, and I'm going to put the yarn tail of the magic ring, so the little yarn tail, on first. I'm just going to find the position that I want the ear, And I'm just going to put my yarn needle in and just bring it across to a random point, just to get that little yarn tail out of the way, and we'll tie it together with the other one later. And now I'm going to get my bigger yarn tail onto my needle. And this is the tail that I'm going to be using to properly sew on the ear. So we can see that we've got this positioning now, and I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to sew in and out of the ear and the body to ensure that it is stable and secure. And then once we're happy with how the ear's sewn on, we can just bring the yarn tail back to the same point as the other yarn tail. So just over here. And then we can just tie these two yarn tails together, and then we can cut them off after we've tied them together and tucked them inside. So this is what the first ear looks like after being sewn on. And now we just need to do our second ear on the other side. So I'm going to position mine the same as the first ear, just over here. So let's go ahead and sew that second ear on just how we did with the other one. Now I will just tie these two tails off as well. And this is what the head looks like with both of the ears sewn on. So now we're just going to put the head aside for a moment as we want to sew the tail onto the body. There is one part of the tail that has more increases than the rest, and that is the opposite side to the stitch marker, so up here. So we want the tail to be facing this way. As you can see, it has a diagonal line down there. So I'm going to want to position my tail like this, as you can see. So I'm just going to hold it there, and I'm going to put the yarn tail into my yarn needle. And then I'm just going to sew into where I want the bottom of the tail to be. And then I'm going to sew in and out of the tail all the way around while adding stuffing as I go and ensuring that it is secure. Once you're happy with how the tail's sewn on, you can just bring the tail to a random spot in the body and just cut that off. So this is what the tail looks like once it's sewn on for my body. And now we're going to do the second last thing, which is sewing the head to the body. So you're going to grab your head and put the yarn tail onto your yarn needle. And we are going to line up where we want the head to be and where the yarn tail is coming out. So I want my head to be about here in comparison to the body. So I'm just going to find that spot where it's coming out of the head. So it's about there. And I'm just going to sew backwards, pull this yarn through, and then there we go. So the head is positioned there. So now I'm going to sew back into the head. Sorry, it's a little bit hard to get a camera angle where you guys can see what I'm doing. But basically you just sew into the head and the body multiple times until the head is secure. So I like to start going in rounds in a second, but first I'll just sort of get it positioned right. So I'll start sewing around. So I'll go into the head over here. And I start slowly making my way around the head. So my head's pretty secure, so once I'm happy with how it's sewn on, I'm just going to bring the tail down to the opposite side of the body, and I'll just bring it through. And then I will just cut off the tail. So now the final thing that we need to sew on is the wings. So your wings will be positioned behind the head like this. So you should have one tail coming out of either side. If you have to bring one of your yarn tails through to come out to the opposite side so that you can have both tails facing inwards, and that's totally fine, just so it looks even. But this is how they'll look from the front, just like this. And then from the back, it'll look like this. So it'll be attached to the back of the head and the body at the same time. So just like this. So I'm going to grab my first wing. Just going to put the other one to the side, and I'm going to put the tail into my yarn needle, and I'm going to start off by going into this point here, so where the head meets the body, and I'm just going to put my yarn needle into there and just bring it across. We've got our positioning right now. So now we go into the wing, and we really want to make sure, because we're sewing with purple, we really want to make sure that we're only sewing into bits that are going to be covered on the front by the head. So we'll just go into this little corner of the wings here. So we'll sew in and out of that and into the head. So I'm going to sew into the wing and the head at the same time. And then back into the wing and down into the body. Let's check how that's looking from the front. And it's looking pretty good. We're pretty happy with that. But we'll make sure to go in and out of the wing and the head quite a few more times. And once you're happy with how it's sewn on, you're just going to bring the tail for the wing to a random point in the head. And we'll bring the other tail from the other wing to that same point later to tie them off. So this is what it looks like with the first wing on. So just like this. And now we're going to sew the other one on just like we did. So this will be the positioning for the back of the second wing. So now I'm just going to bring the tail through to the same point as where the other tail is at. Pull through. And now we're just going to tie these two tails off and then tuck them inside. So if you want any extra details on the face like blush, you can just put that directly behind the eye over here. But otherwise you have completed your dragon. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like the written pattern of this dragon as well as the matching dinosaur pattern, then that will be linked in the description. Make sure to subscribe for more free crochet tutorials, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!